That's an invasion of sovereignty to have another nation come build prisons in your country and then hold people
with
there.
People that left your country because they're uprooted from like all sorts of different factors, like agriculture, bringing like GMO crops that are worth nothing down there and dropping the prices, causing like migration.
Yeah, it's a giant violation of Mexican sovereignty, and that's what's going to continue to happen under this North American Union. Canadian sovereignty, American sovereignty, Mexican sovereignty, all is going to go out the door.
All in the name of security.
All in the name of security, supposedly.
Securing something for someone is counterintuitive.
Yeah, securing things for the elites in reality.
Yeah.
Well, in other budget news in California, California Watch, who we discussed in our last show, they've come out with a brand new report which details the $18.5 billion which was given to California in stimulus funds from the federal government. And they have a searchable database there. You can go on, you can type what county, what city, corporations, whether they got grants, loans, what they got. You can go find out everything about all these different groups and see how much stimulus money was given. Now, I went and poked around a bit and found out kind of where money here in this county had gone, and essentially it all went mostly to the transit authority for transportation to fix buses and stuff like that in Arcata and Eureka here. There was also, oddly, a $631,000 grant given to Eureka, which was supposedly going to be to hire 2 more police officers. I don't know why it cost $631,000, but maybe the city will make a comment about that. Either way, the biggest issues that came out of this was that $15.9 million was given to Boeing. Okay, and get this, Boeing already is a bad enough company with all the weapons of mass destruction that they create and everything like that. But they got given a contract to do environmental monitoring over a site which they contaminated in the first place. I mean, it doesn't get more criminal than that. I mean, these people are the ones that did it in the first place, and now they get the contract, almost $16 million from the federal government.
Is it only a handful of people, too? Was it like 10 personnel get paid like this $1 million+ or something?
Yeah, it's crazy. The $16 million stimulus contract for environmental monitoring at the same site near Simi Valley where the company was fined for polluting a creek with chromium, dioxin, lead, and mercury. The local residents of this area obviously are very upset about this. This is a company that already basically given out cancer to tons of their residents, and now is being given a new contract worth millions of dollars from the state. Another large contract which was given out through the stimulus funding was to a company called Aimco, which is out of Colorado. They got a $13 million contract for housing. Basically, this company has already been through court in San Francisco. They had to pay off $3 million because they were operating essentially slumlord-like facilities, places with rodents crawling through the walls and leaky, moldy ceilings, and all the rest of the things that you would expect in a slumlord neighborhood. And this company was given $13 million to improve the elderly's housing in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to improve things like Halliburton and other contractors in Iraq are supposed to do at bases where they have faulty wiring that electrocutes and kills military members that are just trying to take a shower.
Yep. Well, that's what happens when the government starts sending out contracts to their companies that are essentially buddy-buddy with them, as we saw with Halliburton and George W. Bush. All these things have connections down the line. And when instead of having real companies, real people who want to do it, or having real people in the government who want to do it.
Yeah. Well, money can't buy happiness, especially you can't just throw money at a problem like we showed last week with the show, with the article about the DHS funds and Homeland Security, who've just given out tons of money. With, like, no
people spending it on Monte Carlos and big screen TVs.
Yeah, just say it's for training.
Yeah. This show's feature documentary is Hacking Democracy.
Hacking Democracy chronicles the 2004 election and massive electronic voter fraud that happened in Ohio and disenfranchisement of people in poor, underrepresented areas that typically would have generally voted democratically, not having enough voting machines and that sort of thing. People voting for candidates and then the machine telling them that they voted for someone else in the output, and just a whole list a plethora of egregious violations of the democratic process. These things were exposed by the hard work of certain activists. Our guest today, David Cobb, is featured in the documentary, and he worked on that, being a member of the 2004 presidential race, and also a bunch of other activists digging in trash to find the records that were being thrown out that had the proof that, of how much tampering there was in the election. So we have a clip here to share with you, and we hope that you go online, watch it. As always, our documentaries are free and they can be watched online.
It was showing a minus sign in front of the votes that it had subtracted. It says there's minus 16,022 votes here.
But that kind of subtraction cannot occur accidentally.
So imagine you can go into a box and essentially rewrite history.
When I press the button next to my name, then I see Mr. Gambaluca's name in the display when I press Susan Bernecker. We can't count our votes, so how do we know this is right?
It works correctly, it's recording votes correctly, and quite honestly, the results will be accurate and reliable.
What their inner workings are is the votes of you and I, citizens of America. We wouldn't have to do this if our system wasn't secret and hadn't been turned over to private corporations.
I raise this objection because I am convinced that we as a body must conduct a formal and legitimate debate about election irregularities.
The clerk will report the objection.
Someone consciously tried to steal votes.
Our democracy could go out of business. We won't have a republic left. It won't be recognizable. We're going to have to go back in there and take this back by whatever means necessary.
Something broken in the promised land.
Featured book this show is The Power Elite by C. Wright Mills. He was a sociology professor at Columbia University.
Yeah, C. Wright Mills wrote this book, The Power Elite, back in the 1950s, and has been pretty much a mainstay of people learning about the elite and the real powers behind the system. He talked about something he called middle-level politics, which is basically the politics that everybody knows, the Democrats and Republicans and campaigns and going to your party meetings and all this kind of business. But what he contends is that the real power, the high power where it really lies, is in the people running the financial institutions, the banks who run the money, the people running the military institutions, those who control the power, and the people that are essentially the long inherited families and people that have moved through the system just in the right way to be placed in the top positions of society where they really hold sway and control. A couple quotes from C. Wright Mills that we want to talk about is first what the power elite is. He says, "The power elite is composed of political, economic, and military men, but this instituted elite is frequently in some tension. It comes together only on certain coinciding points and only on certain occasions of crisis." So he's saying that basically this elite is there, but they don't necessarily aren't meeting, they don't necessarily hang out and have secret handshakes, but they have the same interests, they are essentially playing the game at the same table.
And they only you only see them connect like on an issue only when it's
like we saw with the global financial crisis or the war on terrorism. They come together and coincide and they have discussions about what to do about these things and how to move the world forward. Talking about the middle levels of power, C. Wright Mills says, "Undue attention to the middle levels of power obscures the structure of power as a whole, especially the top and the bottom. American politics, as discussed and voted and campaigned for, have largely to do with these middle levels, and often only with them. Most political news is news and gossip about middle-level issues and conflicts.